Today, we are doing the thing that I am probably the most excited about our trip from Maine to Maryland, which is we are going through New York City and down the East River today. We have been waiting here in Port Washington for the last 4 days, waiting for the East River to reopen after the UN General Assembly. So if you were thinking about a trip down the East River or through the East River to get from Long Island Sound to New York Harbor, and it's September, you may want to check the schedule just to make sure that you're not going to be trying to attempt it while the UN General Assembly is in session, because if your air draft is more than 38 feet, it is not recommended that you use the east side of the East River near Roosevelt Island, which is the only part that's open when the UN General Assembly is happening from during the daylight hours. There is a bridge that opens on that side, but we've heard absolute horror stories and I'm just not willing to recommend that you attempt it. So us and just about every other sailboat on Long Island Sound has been sitting here in Port Washington for the last couple days, just waiting for the river to reopen. And that happened last night at 7 p.m. The next big obstacle that we have to deal with when it comes to going through the East River is there is a lot of current, especially near what's called Hell's Gate. Hell's Gate is something you want to hit at slack tide if at all possible. There can be a lot of eddies there, and you really don't want any of this section to be against you because the current through there can be 5 or 6 knots depending on tides and timing. So the general rule of thumb for figuring out slack tide at Hell's Gate is it's going to be 2 hours after high tide or 2 hours after low tide at the Battery Park Tide Station. Also, I'll put a link down below in the video. There is also the NOAA tide prediction chart for this particular area as well, which we're also using. Just make sure you pick the slack that is going to have the corresponding tide you want with you, depending on which direction you're going with. For us, that means that we want our slack at high tide because as it comes back down, it'll go out New York Harbor and we will go with it down to Atlantic Highlands today.
This will be a fast ride because the current in the East River is no less than 2.5 knots.
Ever.
At any point. I think at one point I was hitting 10 knots going through the East River. So there's a lot of current. You need to plan ahead. Like if you need to be on one side to clear a buoy or something like that, you need to make that move well in advance because you're going to be, it's pushing you down current almost as fast as you're going through it. So you need to take that into account.
There's a lot of commercial traffic to be paying attention to. AIS, definitely helpful. We will be having our VHF on 16 and 13 just to make sure we can hear what's going on. 13 is very, very cluttered in New York Harbor, so you just kind of have to be paying attention, trying to listen for what you need to be listening for. So, but there's a lot of talk there. Cool. I wish it wasn't so windy, but port is right over there. I got a ferry terminal right here, and the ferry is docked, so I'm trying to pay attention to that. I got a catamaran there. I'm trying to pay attention behind me because we've had a couple of big trawlers sneak up on us and wake us. There's just a lot going on right now.
Sorry.
Oh, here it goes. They got in so close to that sailboat. Holy shit, they go so fast.
Watch it goes 30 knots.
Oh my god. When you're dealing in an area that has a lot of commercial traffic
is you need to know the difference between a one whistle and a two whistle pass. So one whistle, the easiest way to remember this is one whistle is port, two whistle is starboard. So if you think about it that way, and it's always the overtaking vessel's side. So in a head-to-head meeting, a one whistle means you're passing port to port. But if you're being passed, like overtaken on a one whistle, that means that the overtaking vessel is going to pass you to their port. So it'll be on your starboard. But it is easy to remember if you think about it by syllables. So port, one syllable, one whistle. Starboard, two syllables, two whistles. Super bumpy out here. Wind is blowing like 25, gusting to 30. There's so much boat traffic and so much boat wake. And it's just like bouncing off of these bulkheads that are on any side of the river, on either side of the river. Right now we're in the lee of Governor's Island, which is giving us some relief from the wind wave. The wake's still bouncing us around quite a bit. We're trying to make a decision about whether or not we just stop at Coney Island, which is only about another like hour and 15 minutes, or do we continue on and go all the way to Atlantic Highlands? It's really going to depend on how bad the wind wave and wake is once we get to the other side of the island here, because it's definitely yeah. Andy's doing a great job given how much shit's going on right now. We have decided to go all the way through to Atlantic Highlands. We've got a nice current with us. The wind is now in a very comfortable like 10 to 12, which is like our sweet spot. Tomorrow's wind direction, it's better to be in Atlantic Highlands than it would have been to be at the Coney Island anchorage. Yeah, we have just about an hour and a half left to go, maybe a little bit longer than that. If the wind continues to come down, we might just turn the engine back on, but since we're going to be coming in at dark. Oh, Andy's saying, no, we're not turning the engine back on.
Shake reefs.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot. We've got reefs in. I will say that the East River was, like, a lot of fun.
So Battery Park is a wash machine.
The very southern bit of the East River, where it comes down towards Battery Park, just south of Brooklyn Bridge, was an absolute nightmare. We had wind against current, we had a lot of swell, a ton of wake against current. It was like just a lot. So that was not a lot of fun. But once we got past that, the wake settled out a lot, and that definitely helped. So we are currently going about almost 8 knots, which is awesome. Hopefully we can kind of keep up some of this speed as we continue through, and we'll get the hook down before the sun goes down. We think we have just about 2 hours of sunlight left. Fingers crossed, because that'll give Andy and Aiden a chance to get to shore too.
We made it to Atlantic Highlands. I'm pretty proud of us. I think that there were definitely opportunities for us to bail today, and it's definitely not conditions that we normally would have chosen to go out in, but we made it. I think we are going to unsaltify ourselves and then get in bed. So we will see you next time.
We have got to do a better job of making sure we're putting stuff away, no matter like if we're out in open ocean or like, yeah. One of our projects that we have coming up is to do a bookshelf, because right now I've been having to ferry the books from the shelf out to the V-berth and back like basically every day, and I forgot to do that today, and that's how it ended up on the floor along with everything else. We also had one of the cabinets, the middle one over here, opened while we were underway today. Haven't had that happen in a while, but normally I do like a quick check in the morning before, if I think that we're gonna be like in pretty heavy conditions. I clearly did not do that today. There's one more thing. I literally am just gonna stack it all up on the settee and deal with it in the morning because I am way too tired.